Imagine for a moment that you are a sailor in the 7th century. You are part of the most powerful navy in the world. You have conquered everything in your path. Now, you sit outside the walls of Constantinople, ready to claim the greatest prize of all. Suddenly, a small, strange Byzantine ship approaches yours. It doesn't have a ram, it doesn't have archers. Instead, there is a bronze figurehead of a lion on the prow with an open mouth. You hear a noise, a terrifying roar like thunder, and then liquid fire erupts from the lion's mouth. It hits your deck, and everything instantly bursts into flames. You dive into the water to escape the heat, but the horror doesn't stop. The fire is burning on top of the water. There is no escape. The sea itself has turned against you. This wasn't magic. It was engineering. It was a weapon so advanced, so destructive, and so terrifying that it single-handedly saved Western civilization from collapse. And then it vanished. Welcome to Era by Era. Today we are uncovering the secrets of the Middle Ages nuclear option, Greek fire. To understand why this weapon was such a big deal, we have to look at the map in the year 672 AD. The Roman Empire, or what we now call the Byzantine Empire, was on the ropes. The rise of Islam had begun decades earlier, and the Arab caliphates were unstoppable. They had taken Egypt, Syria, and the Holy Land. Now, the Umayyad Caliphate had their eyes set on the heart of the empire, Constantinople. If Constantinople fell, the gateway to Europe was open. There was no army in Europe organized enough to stop them. History, as we know it, would have been completely rewritten. The Byzantines were outnumbered. Their morale was broken. They needed a miracle. That miracle arrived in the form of a refugee. His name was Callinicus of Heliopolis. He was a Jewish architect and chemist who had fled from Syria. He arrived in Constantinople not with an army, but with a secret formula. He approached the emperor, Constantine IV, and claimed he could create a fire that could not be extinguished. Now, fire in warfare wasn't new. People had been throwing burning pitch in oil pots for centuries, but Callinicus proposed something different. He didn't want to just throw fire, he wanted to project it. This is where the engineering gets insane for the 7th century. This wasn't just a liquid, it was a complete weapon system. It involved 3 parts. First, the mixture itself, a volatile chemical soup. Second, a pressurized system. They used complex pumps and bronze tubes called siphons mounted on the bows of their ships. And third, the ignition. As the pressurized liquid shot out of the tube, it passed a flame, igniting instantly into a jet of fire. Think about that. They essentially built a flamethrower 1,000 years before World War I. The test came in 674 AD, the Great Siege of Constantinople. The Arab fleet blocked the Bosphorus. They prepared for a long siege to starve the city out. The Byzantines unleashed the dromons, fast galleys equipped with the siphons. The descriptions from historians of the time are horrific. The Arab ships, made of wood and pitch, were instant tinder. The Greek fire stuck to everything. It stuck to the wood, the sails, and the sailors. When they poured water on it, the fire reportedly burned fiercer. The only things that could put it out were sand, vinegar, or old urine. But in the chaos of a naval battle, nobody had buckets of vinegar ready. The Arab fleet was decimated. The siege was broken. The psychological impact was so severe that for the next century, enemies were terrified to even approach Byzantine ships. But here is the twist. The weapon was too good. The Byzantine emperors realized that if this recipe ever fell into the hands of their enemies, the Arabs, the Bulgarians, or even the Western Europeans, Constantinople would be doomed. So they created the world's first strict classification system. It became a state secret of the highest order. Emperor Constantine VII later wrote a manual for his son, explicitly stating, "You must never, under any circumstances, reveal the secret of the fire to a foreigner." He claimed an angel brought the recipe, and anyone who gave it away would be struck down by lightning and eaten by worms. A bit dramatic, but it worked. The secrecy was compartmentalized. The people who made the bronze tubes didn't know the recipe for the liquid. The people who mixed the liquid didn't know how the pumps worked. Only the emperor and a select few chemists knew the whole process. And this secrecy is why we lost it. For 500 years, Greek fire kept the Byzantines in power. It saved the city again in the Siege of 717. It was used against the Rus Vikings in 941. But as the empire began to crumble from corruption and civil war, the knowledge began to fragment. By the time the Fourth Crusade arrived in 1204, when Christian crusaders sacked Constantinople, the weapon was gone. The crusaders found the tubes, but they couldn't make the fire. The recipe had died with the last secret keepers. So, what was it? For centuries, modern chemists and historians have tried to recreate it. The leading theory is that the primary ingredient was naphtha, a type of light petroleum gathered from natural wells in the Crimea. But naphtha alone doesn't burn on water. Some scientists believe they added quicklime. When quicklime hits water, it creates a massive chemical reaction that generates intense heat, enough to ignite the naphtha. This would explain why water made it burn hotter. Others suggest they added resin from pine trees to make it sticky so it would cling to the enemy ships like napalm. We've tried to replicate it. We've built models, but we have never perfectly recreated the chemical composition described in the ancient texts. The thunder sound it made as it left the tube suggests a chemical propulsion we still don't fully understand. Greek fire is one of history's greatest ironies. It was a technology so advanced it seemed like magic. It kept an empire alive for centuries past its expiration date. But because they protected the secret so well, they ensured its extinction. When the Ottoman Empire finally took Constantinople in 1453, they used a new superweapon, the Great Cannon. The age of fire was over. The age of gunpowder began. Greek fire was no longer needed, and so it faded into legend. Today, all we have are terrifying drawings in old manuscripts and the accounts of sailors who watched the sea turn to flame. It makes you wonder, what other technologies from the ancient world have we lost simply because someone took the secret to their grave? If you enjoyed this deep dive into lost history, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We're era by era, uncovering the past one story at a time. Let us know in the comments, do you think we'll ever crack the code of Greek fire, or is it better left in the past? Thanks for watching, and see you in the next era.